A very good morning to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on Monday morning. I hope you're all having a reasonably good start to the week. I've got some breaking news for you, an exclusive. In the game against Brentford on Saturday, Graham Potter got it wrong. I'm being facetious, of course. And look, do you know what? It won't be the last time that he will make mistakes in this season. And he probably won't be the last time he'll make mistakes in next season as well. I tried to do a post-match review of the game against Brentford on Saturday, but I decided that drinking with my mates was far more enjoyable, a far more enjoyable way to spend the rest of Saturday rather than talking about West Ham. Now, I tried again on the way home, but my train was ready to leave, so I didn't bother. And then on Sunday, as I was writing notes of the game, my mind kind of drifted and I started to write notes on far deeper issues facing West Ham, facing the club right now. And that's the video that I put out on Sunday on this channel. So if you haven't watched that yet, please do so after this video. And also, if this is the first time that you're watching the West Ham Voice, or if you've watched the channel before but yet to become a subscriber, then please do subscribe to the channel as well. Costs nothing to do so. All the content is free. And after the video, there's a like button. I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button, because when you do, that elevates the channel on YouTube's algorithms and all that sort of stuff. So let's be honest. As I said, Graham Potter made mistakes in this game. And I think it's the first time that I feel that since he's been in charge, in the half a dozen games he's been in charge, that he did just get a few things wrong. Yes, of course, we've had defeats against the likes of Aston Villa in the Cup and against the likes of Crystal Palace and Chelsea in the league. But one can't say that there wasn't endeavour from the team and from the coaches in those games. In fact, there was an awful lot of praise, even though we did lose. Many fans would point out that the game against Crystal Palace was as bad a performance as the one against Brentford at the weekend. But I would counter that by saying that the game against Palace was the third in 8 days where Potter had a depleted squad because of injuries. Whereas the game against Brentford is really down to how Potter set things up, the defeat, that is. And I dare say that it won't be the last time, as I've already mentioned, that he's going to make mistakes. Now, what we as West Ham fans have to do is not get on his back, not get on the players' backs, and not get on his back. But we've got to give him time to get more things right than wrong. And I think that will happen. But as I said in the show that I did on Sunday, unfortunately, as West Ham fans, our patience is a little bit thin. You know, it was a bad second half of the season under David Moyes last season. It was a bad first half of the season this season under Lopetegui. And we want to see, something better. We want to see an improvement. And I think there has been an improvement. There certainly has been a major shift in the way that we're playing our football. But now we've got to start getting those points on the board. But as I've already also alluded to before, we are an impatient fan base, and I think that's a concern, because if you look at Twitter, and see the kind of comments that are coming out there, anyone would think that we'd already been relegated this season. So what were the things that Potter did wrong? Well, let's start with the lineup first of all. I suggested in my preview that I thought Potter was getting the best out of Max Kilman because over the past few games, he's been deployed in the centre of a back three. Now, Potter went against the grain and decided to set us up as a back four. Was that to accommodate Dinos Mavropanos, who I really didn't think should have started this game? Kilman didn't look as assured as he had been in previous games, and the first half was a lesson in how not to defend. We were all at sea, and Mavropanos returning to the lineup, I don't think really helped the cause. Now, would I have picked Mavropanos? To be honest, no. I did think that Potter would have kept faith in Soufal and Creswell, or at the very least, in order to play through at the back, maybe put Dinos on one side and keep Creswell on the other. But I guess the thinking in only playing four at the back was one less defender, meaning that we had one more attacking player on the pitch. Not that that showed in the first half. Now, had we gone with three at the back, not only would it have been likely that it would have meant that Kilman would have played in the central role, it would have also meant that both Emerson and Wan-Bissaka would have given Brentford a lot more to worry about in their input going forward than they did, because they found themselves pressed quite far back in the game, because we had Brentford on the attack most of the first half. Now, their primary role, of course, is to defend. Of course it is. But we've seen how good certainly Wan-Bissaka has been marauding forward in a wing-back role. But there was a lot of pressure on them to defend, and that didn't materialise in the first half. Now, in midfield, the duo of Thomas Souček and Edson Alvarez was criticised. Maybe rightly so, because there is a lack of pace between those two. But again, I got it thinking that I thought, well, at the time, I thought those two would have played as a pivot in the back two had we played the three at the back with the wing backs. But again, that wasn't to be. And that left us quite stagnant in the middle of the park. Now, I didn't really think that Potter was going to pick anyone else, but I did think he would pick those two in that different formation. And then up front, I think Potter tinkered just a little bit too much. Now, in the last game against Chelsea, Potter deployed Bowen, who returned from injury, as the striker. But this time, he decided to go back with Lucas Paquetá as that kind of false number 9 role. And he had Soler and Kudus sitting just behind him. Look, it didn't work. We couldn't keep hold of the ball. Certainly, Paquetá couldn't keep hold of the ball for too long. And the ball just kept coming back to Brentford. There was not that impact, no impetus in our attacking display in the first half. But I got why maybe Bowen was deployed out on the right-hand side. Because this did actually provide more defensive cover for Aaron Wan-Bissaka than perhaps Mohammed Kudus would have provided. But as I mentioned a moment ago, if we'd have gone with three at the back, then a proper wing-back system, then this would have negated the need in a way for Bowen to have been deployed in that role, and he could have been utilised up front instead. Now, Kudus may have operated just in front of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and Bowen could have led the line, but as I've mentioned, Kudus, unfortunately, doesn't provide as much defensive cover for the right-back as Bowen has done. So the formation and the deployment of players for me in the first half certainly wasn't right. Now, the one thing I mentioned in my Brentford preview was that we had to look out for Brentford trying to get an early goal. And what did they go and do within 4 minutes of the start? They went and got themselves the early goal. Now, throughout this season, Brentford have done this almost every game that they've started. They've launched the ball high into the opposition's box or into the opposition's half in order to catch the opposition cold and see whether they can capitalise on this. And indeed, they did just that. Not only were West Ham not prepared for this, but again, had we deployed a back three, then the extra central defender could have been in a much, much better position to have cut that ball out that was launched forward. Still, we should have known it was coming, and we simply just didn't deal with it. Now, the rest of the first half was a shambles. Disallowed goal after disallowed goal meant that by half-time, strangely enough, we were still in the game. Now, the changes that Potter made at halftime certainly improved our performance. Mind you, there wasn't a lot in the performance in the first half to improve on. But Potter didn't change the formation because by now, being a goal down in the second half, there's no way he could have gone to a back three then. It was too late. So he kept it as a back four. But the introduction of the likes of James Ward-Prowse, Ollie Scholes, and Evan Ferguson certainly helped to improve our momentum, and our performance against Brentford was much improved in the second half. Brentford, in a way, hardly got out of their own half in the second half. But then again, they didn't have to. Because to be honest, they're a well-drilled side. They know how to defend a lead, and they did it just in the way that was expected. So they had to not exert any pressure going forward. They could have caught us on the break, of course, but they didn't even have to do that. But we had our chances in the second half, indeed. Evan Ferguson demonstrated why Potter wanted him at West Ham over the January window. He's strong, a focal point, proper target man, but a player who will chase the ball down the flanks to create spaces behind him for attacking players to get into. And he did just that when he chased and won a ball by the bar and cut it back at the byline for Kudus, who, had he been in top form, Mohammed Kudus would have banged that in, but he's not in top form at the moment, and he skied it way over the bar. Look, we know Mohammed Kudus is having a bad time of it at the moment, and there are an awful lot of fans suggesting that he should be dropped. But he's had chances. That chance against Brentford, I think he's hit the post a couple of times in previous games. So the endeavour is there. But I guess with fans is that they think that Kudus is just not trying that hard enough. But the fact that he's getting into the positions that he is likely to mean that for the foreseeable future, Graham Potter is not going to drop Kudus to the bench. Look, Mohammed Kudus is the sort of player that needs to get a goal, and then his confidence is likely to return, and likely to return with aplomb. We also had a penalty shout as well, and quite a legitimate one at that, where Keane Lewis Potter, his leg definitely tangled with Jared Bowen's in the area, and on most occasions that would have been called. I simply don't understand VAR and its use. Isn't this the type of situation that it's meant to be used for? These instances where maybe the referee didn't see it was on his blind side, and VAR should have suggested to the ref maybe to have another look at it. Maybe VAR did suggest it and the referee waved it away. I don't know. But I asked myself, did we deserve to get anything in this game? Well, based on the first half performance, no. Brentford, as I said, should have buried us. But based on the second half performance, then perhaps a point may have been a fair result. In addition to Ferguson, the other second half subs showed their worth. James Ward-Prowse, having come back from loan at Nottingham Forest, where he was busy, he certainly added some sense of urgency to our midfield. Look, we still lack a pacey box-to-box midfielder, but Ward-Prowse's endeavour was very welcome. And Ollie Scholes demonstrated that he's not that far away from being a regular for West Ham, and he will go a long way to saving us a lot of money in the transfer window this summer, because I think he will get the nod by Potter to become a regular first-team starter next season. Not only is he improving every time in his defensive duties, he's also got great pace and decent as a left wing back, and he also possesses a very different strike on him as well. He reminds me of a young Aaron Creswell. Look, the first half was terrible. The second half was a massive improvement, but nowhere near the levels that we've showed in games against Aston Villa and in the games against Fulham and Chelsea. But Potter said he'll learn from this, and I'm pretty certain he will. And I think on Saturday against Arsenal, I think he's going to revert to a back three. And despite not getting any game time against Brentford on Saturday, I think Jean-Claire Todibo will start. Quite possibly, he'll also start Ollie Scholes and maybe James Ward-Prowse as well. But what about up front? Will Evan Ferguson get a shout, get a start in this game? He showed that he's keen. He certainly showed that he's fit, and he can certainly cause problems against Arsenal's defence. But even if he doesn't start, then he is a good foil to use from the bench itself. Look, we've got a week now to get ourselves prepared for that Arsenal game. Let's see what Potter has learned. I've got faith in him. I did say that. I was worried about Potter coming in the first place, but I think he's certainly won me over. And despite only having one win in the 6 games that he's overseen, I still think we've got good times to come under his reign. Like I said, if you're new to this channel and you've yet to subscribe to this channel, please do subscribe. But also, please do hit the like button as well. Leave your comments on what you think. How did you see the game go? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? And thank you for watching. Have a good rest of Monday. I'll be back on the West Ham Weekly later on tonight as well, so look out for that too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.